And speaking of journeys, looking back over your career so far, this is all about digital transformation. So what are some of the biggest learnings that you've had as you've been transforming organizations or even starting your own organization and trying to really be innovative in your space?
Great question. There's a term in technology known as Moore's Law. And Moore's Law states that essentially every 18 months, year and a half, technology is twice as fast and twice as small as it was before that. What does that mean in action? I deliver a lot of lectures on engineering to students and students of today, especially Gen Z that grew up with cell phones in their pockets, may not remember that cell phones came from archaic devices that took up the entire trunk of a car. And then it was the mobile cell phones that I saw firsthand at my kitchen table. Motorola, the StarTAC, the Razor. I'm inspired by my father, who was an engineer at Motorola, and saw Moore's Law in action at my kitchen table. And so for me, I'm an electrical engineer by training. I'm a device geek at heart. I think of digital transformation as seen through the evolution of hardware, where now we have a supercomputer in a device that fits in our pocket. Rewind the tape 10 years ago, right? That was a much larger, slower device. 10 years before that, it was taking up the entire trunk of a car. And so for me, digital transformation has everything to do with increasing access to technology and harnessing the advancements in speed to pioneer entirely new industries and elevate antiquated industries to do more with less.
I love that. So do more with less. And that's kind of the idea behind Rioso too, right?
Absolutely. Reuso it's been a passion project turned into a very promising tech startup, which started as a labor of love, exploring how the club that we supported, my partner and I working out of Aon Center, joined a dinner club. We got lunch served every day on flatware to us. It was, 2 meals out of a very hectic schedule that we could enjoy together. When the pandemic hit in 2020, they shifted to takeout meals. And so suddenly we had dozens upon dozens of single-use plastic items each week that we were accumulating. We wanted to keep supporting the club. We certainly wanted to keep enjoying the delicious meals they were preparing, but we didn't want this to be at the expense of the planet. We were researching at the time dynamic pricing to combat food waste, a lockbox to combat food security. And we recognized that it would create a circular system, a system where we could dispense a reusable container and capture it back. With that, back to the premise of doing more with less, we could not only help reduce the waste generated, but we could decrease the costs of operations for food service providers. Finally, after several hundred restaurant interviews, very trying time during the pandemic, to push a reusable initiative forward. Hundreds of no's, but we persevered. Finally, September of 2021, we debuted at Andersonville for a street festival, eliminating hundreds of single-use containers. And we've been hard at work since, building the technology surrounding reusable systems to help keep them in circulation and translate reuse data into meaningful metrics.
That's awesome. So you're actually digging in and looking at the metrics about how they're being used and then feeding that back into the process that you're developing.
That's correct. Yes. So the current reusable containers that we source are certified to last anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 uses. So you imagine a scenario like a Major League Baseball stadium, 162 games a year, 81 home games. If that souvenir cup can be used for 24 ball seasons, essentially the entire duration of a successful Major League Baseball player's career, we're exponentially reducing the waste and the cost to serve fans in a stadium setting. And so for us, data by itself is meaningless. Data with action, forecasting insights, eliminating stockouts from various concessionaires through the stadium. When does a product reach end of life? How do we pull that from the stack and decommission it before it introduces a health risk or a variability into the environment? Actually tracking when and where a product was sanitized, right? Reuse is a new industry to us here in the Midwest. I have a lot of folks tell me, Jerry, hey, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable eating out of the same food container, and that somehow a stadium setting is different than a flatware type setting. Just sat down at a Rosebud, delicious Italian restaurant, right? Served on a flatware plate. Somehow that's different, or it's a different process. It's the exact same sanitization process. So for us, data helps overcome barriers. Data helps eliminate stockouts for packaging. Supply chain issues are top of mind for many right now. Ultimately, that digital package to us is a gateway to a plethora of direct and indirect benefits to stadium operators, concessionaires, hungry ball fans, and ultimately society at large.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and a large part of this is taking that real life use case and translating it so that people understand what the data is telling them. So kudos. I mean, that's huge success. Love hearing about this stuff because it's unique applications of technologies that let us innovate, right? It's not necessarily that we have to go out there and create a brand new product or a new service. I mean, recycling has been around forever, but how we apply it and how we get people comfortable with it is always key to making sure that it gets adopted.
Couldn't agree more. And I think the point that you made as to the technology has been there. Rewind the tape 10 years ago, I did a near field communication project for Boeing. We just like we're now tagging individual stadium cups, food containers. We were tagging airplane components. However, 10 years ago, the technology was so expensive, the threshold was $500,000. They said, if this component is $500,000 or more, we want to track it through the entire manufacturing process. And I led a team of hardware and software engineers understanding current manufacturing processes and injecting digital traceability into those components. Fast forward 10 years, right? The same technology, the same approach that I was doing 10 years ago for Boeing is now revolutionizing the food and beverage space, which is an industry that operates on slim margins, right? And so again, I'll tie it back to Moore's Law, doing more with less, faster, smaller. We're now developing the Internet of Things down to individual packages. And we've just hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's possible once that package is digitized.